What's going on, Mets fans? We have an action-packed show for you tonight. We got some interesting news today in Mets land. One of them not good, one of them pretty good. And the Mets also got a pitcher. We'll get into it on this episode of Metcast. Like and
Here we go, Mets fans. Welcome back to another live edition. My guy, Danny Boy, with the first intro. But
wow.
Listen, we're all learning on the fly here, including myself. Snap that button a little too soon. But make sure you guys like and subscribe if it's your first time here. Let us know down in the comments what's going through your mind. And on the replay, we'll be sure to get to a lot of your guys' comments and questions. Consider becoming a member down in the description below if you want to be guaranteed to get your comments and questions read, Dan. And with that said, David Stearns drops the bomb from hell on us today with this Francisco Lindor news, potentially out 6 weeks. And look, I don't take anything with what this team's going to tell us seriously when they say he's going to be back for opening day. I am not buying it here on Metcast right now. I think that is a safe face. Well, if he's a week or two, nobody's going to say anything, but they're trying to prevent the fans from going into full panic mode right now, which I'm not, because the Mets have pieces, and we'll get into that in a minute, where things we predict to shuffle around to. And I think David Stearns, which we do have the clip here, will kind of shortchange Met fans when the reporters were digging. Could potentially a Bichette move to shortstop if he goes for surgery or not? What could happen? We'll get into that further. Let's get to some of your comments.
Yeah, and Ray, it's crazy because the Lindor stuff is pretty significant. Like, we can't ignore this news, and we will give you guys our opinions. We want to get your opinions tonight. It's not good news. I want to make that clear, and I don't think he's ready for opening day, but we'll get into all of it here on Metcast. Excited.
Yeah, you know, one thing I want to touch on, this whole WBC thing, I got to admit, I'm kind of jacked for it. I didn't think I would be. We might be doing some live streams, so make sure you guys are checking in with us over on X. Maybe we do a watch along. Let's go USA, and I'm proud to say that. I will not be ashamed to say that, as some folks over on X want to. I don't care. USA, baby.
Yep.
I think it's an exciting thing. I think it's a great thing for the sport. We've never really had a lot of action-packed, but you see the stars out there, especially on Team USA, who, let's be honest, in the past hasn't had great representation. But our boy Nolan McLean, you got guys all over the place. A great action-packed, a great action-packed roster for the Mets. I'm beyond excited, but let's touch on it. Supposedly, Francisco Lindor was going to be a part of that. They couldn't find insurance for quote-unquote pre-existing injuries. And then we find out today, which I didn't know. Maybe you guys knew. Maybe I'm lost in some vortex. Lindor's been nursing this injury for years now. It goes hot and cold. Could that potentially explain why he goes ice cold for 2 months? Does it just randomly flare up on him? Is that the kind of injury that we're talking about, where this could be affecting this guy for the last couple of years? If that is the case, go get the surgery. If he misses 3 or 4 games early on, I'm totally cool with that. Get healthy. I need MVP type Lindor if this team's going to be doing anything.
Yeah, it's not good. And again, we've talked about Lindor and trying to fight through things in the past. We talked about the playoffs in 24. This guy hit one of the biggest home runs in Mets history against the Phillies in Game 4 of that division series, the Grand Slam. He's walking around the bases, not getting excited. And we find out later what's the reason. He had a bad back. He was nursing a serious injury, which we knew the severity. We didn't know to that level. Like, we didn't realize it was as severe as we thought. Listen, this guy's a gamer. He's going to go out there and post. He's going to be proud of this team. He's going to be the leader of this team. But you got to be a leader in the other way, too. We talk about this with Mania. If you have bone spurs in your elbow, get the surgery. I mean, we're not going to sit here and just be debating these things because, oh, for the sake of the team. The sake of the team would say you get this surgery so you're 100% for the team. That's very important. So for Lindor, I have a hard time believing he'll be ready for opening day. I think tomorrow I actually know tomorrow he's getting consulted with doctors and he will make his final decision. I think it's smart to get this surgery, get it out of the way, and maybe you're a week late. You're not playing all 162, but guess what? You're healthy going into the majority of the season. That's what matters.
So let's talk about how Juan Soto, if anybody's been living under a rock, is getting moved to left field, impacts his team. And I think it impacts his team tremendously. He goes to left field. Obviously, it's a way easier position to field in Citi Field. He's going to have Roberts in center field, but how does this affect this team defensively? When I look at this team defensively right now, who's in right field? And we saw David Stearns touch on, well, we're comfortable with Beatty out there. Benj Beatty. Beatty has a right field arm. Are we all sure about that? Are we sure right field, which is a more difficult position to field at Citi Field, you're going to stick a first-time outfielder in right field? My biggest fears, I think, are coming true, Dan. We're going to see Tyrone Taylor just about every day, at least in the beginning, especially considering the stuff going on with Lindor. I wouldn't be shocked if the first series, dare I say, against Paul Skeens and the Pittsburgh Pirates, could we see a Bo Bichette at shortstop, a Brett Beatty at third base, Mark Vientos full-time, and we're seeing a Tyrone Taylor in right field? That's where I'm thinking. You want to talk run prevention? And I'm no fan of it offensively. Everybody knows that. But if you want to talk run prevention, Tyrone Taylor would probably be a top 5 right fielder in all of baseball defensively. You have a top 5 center fielder in all of baseball defensively, and Roberts out there who's going to help with Soto. A Brett Beatty at base, but Marcus Semien at second. Yes, I know Bichette's a downgraded shortstop, but the best outfield defense, and if that's what we're going off of defense, it's with Tyrone Taylor in right field every day.
Yeah, it is. I can't sit here and argue that. There's also MJ Melendez in the mix as well for right field, who I think will get a very good opportunity, at least out of the gate, because this tells us a couple things, right? The fact that they're moving Soto from right to left. They're not bringing in Tatis. They're not bringing in Tucker, right? So they're not opening up the spot to bring in a guy. They're saying without saying it, I could be misinterpreting this as we don't bat 1,000 here, but we give you our educational opinion. I don't know if Benj is going to be ready. And I think they kind of are saying that without saying that. He's going to play left field. It makes sense because we understand as baseball fans in the dimensions of Citi Field, playing left field is a lot easier than playing right field at Citi Field. It always has been, and it always will be, just based on the dimensions. That's why you could put Brandon Nimmo out in left field. People don't really bat an eye. There were some people saying the defense wasn't as good, but in general, you can live with it. The fact that Soto is now in left, that was supposed to be Benj's spot. They've told us in the past that Benj can play right field. I believe that's true. But out of the gate, you have to be sure. What if there's a big play opening day? You have Benj playing right field. He fumbles a ball in the corner. You have a guy going first to third. Next thing you know, he's rounding third. He's heading home. Benj is bobbling the ball in right. These are all bad things that can happen very quickly for the Mets. So I think by this move, Ray, I don't know if Benj is going to make the team opening day, or if he does, he's going to be on the bench because Tyrone Taylor's out there, or MJ Melendez.
So what I'm trying to do right now, and I'm doing it on the fly, so forgive me, everybody. I should have been prepared, which I wasn't. I want to see what on the 80 scale, and of course the 80 scale is very subjective. We all know that. Everywhere I look, Benj is considered an above average fielder. Where is his arm? It's one thing to have great range, which, it's Texas right now. Texas is throwing Brandon Nimmo in right field. Brandon Nimmo, who last year, his arm strength graded out in the 48th percentile. Think about that. And his range is in the 42. Soto's much worse, but Soto at least, his arm strength is in the 66th percentile. I mean, his range is in the first percentile. That's how bad he was last year defensively. But we got a tidbit. You know what? I'm going to pull. I was planning on pulling this up later, Dan, but I think I might pull it up now. I saved the video because we had a really interesting comment over from Foul Territory in regard to Juan Soto and this offseason with from Scott Boris. And I want to play it for us. We don't have to play the whole thing, but I thought it was something, as we're doing our research for the show, I want to look into it really quick. I have it right here. Let me pull it up. Here we go. Here we have it from foul territory. Look, as I botch, this is what happens when everything's live. You botch the banners, right? But I wanna show. Here we go. I wanted to show what Scott Boras had to say in regard to Juan Soto, and listen to who he trained with this offseason.
Well, we took over Luis about over a year ago, and we found something. And we found something that we brought to him about, July of last year, about how to get him back to being himself and what the difference was in his approach and what he was doing.
Luis Roberts here.
And how he managed himself. And I'm no hitting coach, never intend to be. But in our study and evaluation of him, we knew when he was elite and how he performed elite at the big league level. We had that in our library to be able to illustrate to him that these adjustments are truly him, not what he was doing currently. And boy, he had like well over an 800 OPS for the rest of the season and did great. And I think the Mets saw this, but the best thing is, when you talk about Max Scherzer, the thing you learn about greatness from all of them, from Maddox and many of the people that I've had the great fortune, Garrett Cole, you learn from greatness about how you talk to players and what you do when they have great ability and how to approach it and what's effective. And you have that route and path where you have to confront them sometimes, but you also have to understand and listen and give them a choice and a pathway where they choose, they're invested, and they go. And also, I have Juan Soto at our Boras Sport Performance Camp, and we have one in Florida, we have one in Arizona, we have one in California. I have Juan Soto and Luis Robert together. Ironically,
bingo. Look how he just glosses over that. This entire last offseason, these two guys were training together at Scott Boras' sports complex. There you have it right there. That's what I wanted to bring up. See what
they're going to be teammates. To watch Juan Soto work out every day, to watch what Juan Soto does, to sit down and talk to Juan Soto about how he approaches his control of the zone, what he's done. I remember talking to Juan Soto when he was 17 about how Barry Bonds.
We don't have to keep going with this, but he further goes in to say, Dan, really interestingly, that Juan Soto, this whole offseason's working with Robert Jr., they're talking about defense, how Juan Soto could get better on defense, and then they go on to talk about how Juan Soto's working with him closely in his hitting, how having a guy like Juan Soto and these stars in the lineup, he feels very confident Luis Robert is going to turn back the clock. He also spoke on the podcast. You guys can go check that out over on X. It was courtesy of our friends over at Foul Territory. He talks about how Luis Robert needs to show up every day knowing there's something to play for. And I'm paraphrasing here, but he spoke to that Luis Robert knew there was nothing to play for in Chicago and got lax. And it was on him for doing that. But being in New York, a guy around guys like Juan Soto, Bo Bichette, dare I say the Nolan McLean, Freddie Peralta's, hell, Francisco Alvarez, who is a firecracker when he's hot, Francisco Lindors, the Jorge Polanco's, professional hitters all over the place. This is what I wanted to hear. Now, look, obviously it's his agent. We got to take it with a grain of salt. I'm not naive to that. But it does make me excited. I can't sit here and lie to you when we hear things like that, Dan, and it's like, all right, maybe he's going to take this seriously. And he's also got to be thinking this too. There could be a major, major payday on the horizon for Luis Robert, who will still be in his 20s when he's a free agent in just 2 years.
I think when we look at these connections that are made, we've seen a couple of them pop up. And I don't usually give credence to these things, but in this specific instance, I do. The ones that I don't give credence to. Last year, we heard Clay Holmes when he became a Met. Oh, I'm working out with Garrett Crochet in the offseason. Did that mean Garrett Crochet was going to be a Met? No, clearly not. But it was something interesting. We heard this offseason, Freddie Peralta working out with Luis Severino. Does that mean Luis Severino is coming back to Queens? You ask me, I would love to see that. But honestly, the truthful answer, probably not. But with Robert and Soto, realize how the other two names that I mentioned are four names in general. They're all pitchers. And when you play the game, and I've played it at a high level, Ray, I know you've played it at a high level. When you're in talking with pitchers, it's not the same as it is with hitters. You can throw a pitch the same way. You can have the same grip, but it's never going to be the same. The axis, the spin rate, it's all specific to each player. Arm angles, everything changes. With hitters meetings, you actually can learn a lot, and you can apply a lot. With pitching, you can't. So I think the Mets understood that, okay, we have Guy and Robert, works out with Soto. Scott Boras is amazing at what he does, too. I just want to give him his flowers. The Scott Boras documentary that we watch someday, it's going to be up there with The Last Dance and Michael Jordan. I do believe that it's going to be that polarizing. But in general, yeah, the Mets made the decision. They connected the dots. They understood that hitting is an art, and learning from Juan Soto, Robert is a beneficiary of that. So I hope that they bring this to Queens and Robert can unlock his 2023 self, because if that's the case, Ray, this team, they could go very deep into October.
Yep, and it's more well-rounded. And look, Dan and I don't know if we're going to do it this show because we got a lot of stuff coming up. By the way, tidbit, we will both be down at spring training.
Woo!
I'll be covering for Metcast. Dan will be covering for some phony newspaper. And
Washington Post, no.
Yeah. No, I don't think they exist anymore.
No, too soon. Yep.
Or their sports doesn't exist. But we'll be down there. I'll be down there for at least a couple of games. Our boy Ernest, who I was talking to today, he's down there with credentials. Dan will be down there. I'll tell you this. There is hype for opening day. I go to opening day every year. But for some reason, when you get to spring training and it's hot and the players are loose, watching, them launch balls all over the place, talking laid back. What I love to see is I don't go there for the major league talent. I go there for the minor league talent. Watch Brandon Sproat the last couple years. The Jonah Tongues before anybody even knew about him. That's what you're looking forward to. The Jet Williams, God rest his soul over in Milwaukee. I wish him nothing but the best. But that's what you go down there for. You want to see who's the next big guy. And let's talk about something that also came up today. Tobias Myers.
Yeah.
Being stretched out. And I noticed that I'm going to see if I could grab it. Maybe not right now, but when David Stearns was talking about him, Dan, stretching him out to be a starter, he said, at the start of spring training or further. He slipped that in and nobody caught it. Nobody caught it at all. I couldn't believe it that nobody actually caught that. I think there's a real opportunity for this team to battle out and have a six-man rotation. Now, I don't think Myers is going to be a part of it, but having that arm, that swing arm, no more of the Joey Lucchesi type swing. I am so tired of those Joey Lucchesi type guys. We had a league-leading amount of pitchers last year. That can't happen this year. And one thing David Stearns has done, and we saw him get Byron from the White Sox today. What's his last name?
Brian Hudson.
Brian Hudson, who, guys, go take a look. 2 years ago, he was an amazing pitcher, fell off last year. 2 teams, kind of took a dive. But I think David Stearns learned his lesson from last year. That's one thing I like to see. If you have a staff that is older, something that you and I have spoken about a lot, Senga in his 30s, Minaya in his 30s, Peterson in his 30s, Peralta about to be 30. You go up and down. Everywhere, everybody's in their 30s. Clay Holmes in his 30s. They break down. The six-man rotation is the way to go. And they asked him about it today, and he wouldn't give anything in regard to whether or not they would contemplate doing it or not. But I think that is the recipe for success. Kodai Senga gets a day off, Dan, allowing him, he's always been better on 5 full days rest. I think that's what the Mets have to do.
Listen, I think at the end of the day, you're looking at a 6-man rotation. You're looking at Tobias Myers being a piece in this rotation. I think what you said adequately, he's a swing man. That's what he is. He took Kodai Senga's spot because the Mets couldn't trade Kodai Senga. They couldn't bump down Kodai Senga because of the PR headache that would be moving Senga out of this rotation at this point. They still believe that there's something in there. Kodai Senga goes to the Astros and he has a sub-2 ERA. Not going to look good for the Mets, ladies and gentlemen. So having depth is very key. The Mets have a lot of it. I think you're going to see a bunch of piggybacks this season, as we saw last year towards the end of the year. Don't be surprised if you see Sean Manaea and Clay Holmes piggyback together. Don't be surprised if you see Sean Manaea and Tobias Myers piggyback together. I think these are all good things. Competition, as Stearns often says with third base, it applies to the rotation as well. You have to have competition. Competition breeds innovation, and innovation breeds success. So at the end of the day, compete. Everybody's competing against everybody. The only two locks in this rotation, I don't have to say the names, but Nolan McLean and Freddie Peralta, those are the only two locks that any Mets fan can definitively say at this point. Clay Holmes can still go to the pen. That is not set in stone that Clay Holmes is a starting pitcher come playoff time. That's not true.
100%.
So, we'll see.
And you know what it is with Clay Holmes? I just don't. We try to be honest here, right? We're all friends. At least I think. Maybe some people in the comments, but I think if anybody's going to take a step back this year, Clay Holmes is my guy to take a step back.
Okay.
And it's not because I don't like him, Dan, but he pitched 165 innings last year, whatever it was, the most in his career. You're in your 30s. It's hard to do that back to back. Maybe, just maybe, the 6-man rotation will help a guy like him. Nobody's talking about that. Everybody just pencils Clay Holmes in 3.52 ERA. He's going to repeat what he did last year. But one stat, there's an advanced stat that we all love here, especially on Metcast. One stat we can't ignore. A 1.3 whip. That is tough. Now, I understand he's a sinker bowler. He's going to give up a lot of ground balls. So sometimes sinker bowlers have a higher whip. The David Petersons, back in the day, the Mike Pelfreys. Yes, they tend to have a higher, ground ball rate. So balls sneak through, but it's hard to get doubles and home runs off these guys. But I don't know. He's not throwing 97. Now, a lot of movement, that could help. But I also think this, too. The 6-man rotation could also help. Nolan McLean. Go look at Nolan McLean. How many innings he pitched? Not a lot. Same thing with Jonah Tong. Having that extra start cuts down, what is it? It's like 5 starts a year, I believe it ends up being, if they all stay healthy, which we all know that's not going to be the case. Let's not have any fool's gold here. We know that there's going to be Mets that have injuries, especially to the pitching staff. Let's just hope they stay as healthy as long as possible. But a 6-man rotation, if somebody goes down and we're used to 6-man, you can either throw Tobias from the bullpen right in. You could call up a Jonah Tong, a Christian Scott, and one question we'll get to in a minute, a question that Ernest Dove asked, we'll get to in a minute, but the Mets have a crazy amount of depth in the minor leagues. Now, I don't want to say crazy, then we start testing it early on in spring training before you know it, the depth's gone. That's what happened last year with Sean Manaea getting injured right away. But, Dan, speak to the depth on this team. You know it more than I do. And then I want to get to Carson Benj and David Stearns' comments in regard to him. I should have that pulled up.
Yeah, there's other layers to the depth too. Like a guy like Christian Scott, I know he's coming back. He should be a piece at some point this year. To begin the year, you can probably slot him into AAA because of all these names that we're mentioning. There's not enough room. The Mets have too much depth, which, as Ray pointed out, we have heard this in the past. I remember this time last year, it feels like a broken record. The Mets have depth. You have to trust. They'll be all right. It's not always once boots are on the ground and you have the season getting going, that stuff goes by the wayside very quickly. All you need is one injury and everything can start to unravel. But the Mets do have that depth, and Christian Scott's going to be a big part of that. 6-man rotations in general are probably the best course of action moving forward in baseball. I think a lot of teams are realizing, hey, I can have an extra day to save my staff. Why would I not want to do that? Like that usually is where the game is going. It's exciting, right? The Mets have a lot of really good arms. And real quick, when you trade a Jet Williams and a Brandon Sproat specifically, a move like that is only done if you have bigger prospects coming up the pike. Like that's a very big point I want to make, because it's easy to trade 2 top prospects and get a good return. That's not the hard part. The hard part is making sure that you have 2 top prospects coming up for the next season to trade. And so far the Mets do. If they wanted to dip in and trade a Jonah Tong, they still can. I don't think anything's happening this offseason, but before the deadline, they have a lot of depth.
Yeah, and you know what? And hey, Jody, hope all is well with you guys in the chat. I see a lot of you guys checking in. Let's keep it going. I want to get to Carson Benj comment. I will say this, David Stearns, who typically gives you absolutely nothing, in my opinion, gave us a few tidbits, Dan, today. So I'm not, I don't want to complain about it. So let's see what we got here. Gotta pull it up. We lost Dan for a sec. I'm sure. Dan, you still there? We lost Dan for a sec. All right, so we'll play these comments really quickly from David Stearns in regard to Carson Benj.
On what some other guys do, right? It's not all going to be dependent on how Carson looks. We're not going to get too preoccupied with surface line results one way or the other. And we'll make the best decision that we can on opening day, recognizing that opening day is one day. And rosters can change pretty quickly.
So one thing that he was talking about right there, and I know we got the back end of that, which kind of stunk a little bit right there. But one thing that we did get from him was you kind of look into it. It doesn't look like spring training is going to matter in regard to Carson Benj. He kept saying like, well, you got to take spring training with a grain of salt, depending on what guys are doing, what guys are working on. Now, listen, if he hits 085, I don't think he's going to be making this roster. But Dan, think about the options right now outside of Carson Benj. I mean, Starling Marte's still out there. Dare I say, I don't even want to say it, but a guy like Andrew McCutchen's not returning to Pittsburgh. They're moving on. I mean, I wouldn't want McCutchen. The guy is literally as old as my father. But, there are other options out there, and the Mets haven't explored them, which I'm very surprised. It looks like he's an automatic lock to make this team, regardless of his spring training performance.
Yeah, it's weird because I think, again, Benj can play in the major leagues as of today. I want to make that very clear. He's built for it. But is it smart to risk that? That's a question that Stearns can answer, right? I know that spring training generally to a player like Benj, a top prospect, yeah, it's usually a grain of salt. He's probably working on some approach change, probably keeping his hands in a little bit longer, whatever the case is that he's working on. That stuff takes time. But again, now that you have injuries popping up as soon as the first day of spring training with Lindor, and you can't afford not to have these guys at least around. I think having Benj at least on the bench, whether he starts or not, I don't really care. I just kind of want him on this team if possible. But yeah, I tend to agree with David.
Well, let me ask you this. He makes the team, but he's sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
I mean, fans killed the Mets last year for, the happening to Mauricio, happening to Acuna, guys of that nature.
Yeah.
And by the way, Mauricio was listed today as one of those guys who could potentially fill in for a Lindor. We could touch on that. I'm with a lot of people in the comments. I don't think there's any chance the Mets are going to move Bo Bichette back to shortstop. I think that ship has sailed.
I agree. And how nice would it be to have Luis Angel Acuna right now? I don't want a Monday morning quarterback.
That's one of my first things I thought of. But, another guy who can't hit it all.
Right.
But let's keep it moving to the next guy that he spoke about. This is David Stearns touching on one of my favorite prospects, Mr. Raw Power himself, Ryan Clifford.
Played in the WBC.
Yeah, I mean, we had nothing to do with that. I actually don't know why he wasn't given clearance. He wasn't approved for insurance. Clubs have no.
This has got to be the wrong clip. I'm sorry, guys. This is what happens when
it's an important point too.
They stick commercials in between. But I was able to hear all of it. They spoke about Ryan Clifford potentially coming up this season and impacting this team. And his exact comments or near exact comments were, he's in AAA. Things happen quickly. Would he be surprised if he was up here? Paraphrasing, not really. And I see somebody in there, I think it was Clue, one of our members, said Ryan Clifford will be up here by July. I actually think that is probably the plan, to have him come up fairly quickly, surprisingly. And one tidbit David Stearns threw out there that I wasn't aware of. I know he used to play these positions, but the Mets haven't stopped him. He's been playing a lot in the outfield, left field, and right field. So if Carson Benj is not cutting it in the outfield, there's a potential there for him to play in the corners Or dare I say Luis Robert is not cutting into the outfield. Maybe Benj moves to first and Ryan Clifford plays right field. They've had him playing a lot of left field and right field, and supposedly they really like what they've seen out there, and it's not just blowing smoke at this point.
No, he can play all three positions. And for a guy like Clifford, too, who can play the outfield, it's important to have Benj and Clifford both in the mix. Listen, anytime you even mentioned before Beatty playing right field, and it sounds so crazy, I tend to agree. And I know it's different regimes that we're talking about, but I remember being a very young Mets fan watching Lucas Duda stroll out to right field. Brought that up a couple times.
Yeah.
So to act like we haven't seen guys that maybe aren't the cookie cutter positions play the position just to break into the big leagues, I could see that happening with a guy like Ryan Clifford, where right field might be a black hole for the Mets in 26, where it's kind of bench to begin, and God forbid he doesn't look great. You might have to move him to a bench spot or whatever have you, maybe to back down to AAA. You can have Clifford come up in the mix. And the reason I say Clifford is because the Mets have believed in Clifford throughout his whole development throughout the Mets system. For those who don't know, he only hit 2 home runs, I believe, with Brooklyn in single A, and the Mets still promoted him. For those who have been to Brooklyn and watched the Cyclones play, you got really bad downwind blowing off the water in from right field. So as a lefty that Clifford is, that power goes to die out to right field, pull side. So they still promoted him. They believed in him, and they continue to believe in him now that we've seen him move up to AAA last year. So I think he's going to be a big piece, right? I tend to agree with you. But I kind of see it more at right field. I think there's just so much variance at first base right now between Polanco and Beatty and Vientos, and I don't know. Is Clifford going to be in the mix too? I mean, it remains to be seen.
You know who I think, and hot take, who I think's off this team by July? Mark Vientos.
I think he's off the team by next week.
Look, Zips came out with his projection today.
Yeah.
And I love how everyone's like, oh, look at this clown Ray putting this projection out there. He doesn't know ball, all the stuff in regard to that. It's not my projection, ladies and gentlemen. It's Zip, who has done this way longer than I have, and I got my power rankings I'll be releasing to you guys before the end of this video, so make sure you stick around. Spend a lot of time making that up today. You can only imagine where the Mets end up, but I want to get to these. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to put it up on the screen right here for you guys. Hold on, give me 1 second.
To our local listeners too, I also
sorry, I cut you off. We're getting used to this new stuff here.
It's all good.
Hey, Dan.
No, I was saying I got a new mic, ladies and gentlemen. So hopefully Ray gave me the specs and the recommendation, and all good. There's Vientos though. Yeah, I mean,
nice mic. I wonder who else has a mic like that. So here we go. Mark Vientos per Zips, not per Metcast, per Zips projections. 527 plate appearances, 22 home runs, 77 RBIs. But then they stuck in that little OPS, 755. That means he's going to be striking out a unearthly amount. And here's what I had to say about this. This projects Mark Vientos for a slightly below average season in 2026. If his primary role with the Mets is DH, that level of production simply won't be enough. The Mets will need significantly more offensive impact from that spot to maximize their lineup and to contend, which I truly believe that, Dan. You can't have a guy who is completely positionless, at DH with a 755 OPS. When are we going to solve this position? And I'm telling you when. His name's Ryan Clifford. And that's why I said by July, I project Ryan Clifford will be up because he will be taking Mark Vientos' spot. And this is why I say that. Polanco's a switch hitter. He's here for 2 years. People love to say, well, Ray, Polanco wasn't good in 2024. Well, look at 23. I believe it's 3 out of the last 5 years. His OPS was 798, or 4 out of the last 5, 798 or better. 3 out of the last 5, over 800. 4 out of the last 5 were 798 or above. Guy's a switch hitter, and he's never had guys. Yes, you could say Julio Rodriguez, great player. He's never had a Juan Soto, a Bo Bichette around him, a Francisco Lindor around him. It's very easy to sit here and say, and it's truth, you have 3 guys who could win MVP in this lineup around him. It's what it is. Alonso was never winning an MVP here. Sorry. Messenger. I love Alonso. Love him. Had his card back there. You can just roll over before. Maybe it's a Noman. But Bo Bichette, a 300 hitter, could easily hit 25 homers, steal 30 bags, win MVP. Lindor was second in MVP a couple years ago. Juan Soto, who had one of the worst starts in Mets history, the first month of the season, finished third in MVP voting last year. Now, it's easy to say Ohtani. Okay, you can always give it to Ohtani. But I'm saying three guys who could easily finish top 5 in MVP. He has not had that around him. And I also expect guys like Brett Beatty to step up this year. I really like Brett Beatty. Last year, he was my breakout player. This year, I haven't named my breakout player yet. Got to do a little more research, but maybe it's the guy behind the plate. It is year 4.
That's mine.
Why, Dan? I've touched on it. You've touched on it. When is Francisco Alvarez finally going to show up? And I know I'm bouncing all over the place, but that is my prediction. I think Mark Vientos gets traded probably for a reliever. I believe in Mark Vientos. I don't know if I believe in him here. He's going to have to prove himself quickly. This is not last year where you have Brandon Nimmo and Pete Alonso combining for 100 home runs or whatever, 75 home runs and 170 RBIs. That's not here anymore. We're relying on you now, and he's going to be in prime opportunity for RBIs. Mark Vientos is going to be hitting 5th and 6th in this lineup. You're going to have Juan Soto, Polanco, Bichette, and the bunch all on base all the time. He's going to get prime opportunities to drive these guys in. And if he doesn't, this is the first time in a long time there's going to be guys kicking at the door to take his job. When's the last time we've gotten into a season and said that? We've been talking about Jet Williams for 4 years before we traded him. I'll never forget. 3 years ago was his first major league camp. He was 20. We thought he was going to make it then. But you know, that's where I'm standing, Dan.
Right, and I think a lot of those predictions are pretty sound, pretty accurate. If you want the truth, I think they'll give Vientos a month to see, right, until the trade deadline. At least sounds easy to say, but really until Clifford's ready, like you're saying. I think that's probably the best transfer of power that we could see. Vientos has a lot of power, and I think that's why he'll be on this team, at least to begin the year. The Mets are preaching right side power. Vientos has right side power. But if you don't get anything close to what you got in August of 2025 for Vientos to begin the year, he's as good as gone, ladies and gentlemen, because we've talked about this plenty of times. We saw it last year, right? End of the year, Mauricio was on the bench. Vientos could have gotten some opportunities, and the Mets kept him on the bench. That was one of the final signs for me. And then just kind of seeing him as a player, like he tends to be a little lackadaisical. He tends to be a little bit moody. He doesn't give you a lot of versatility in the field, as we've talked about. He doesn't give you any speed. His glove is not that great. He's a great power bat. And I want to chalk it up to the sophomore slump in 25. I do. And I want to give him that benefit of the doubt because he deserves it based on what he did in 24. But in general, that time is completely gone. What is he, 25 going on 26 now? I believe he's 26.
Might be 26.
The time is now, Mark Vientos. If not,
yeah, he's 26 now. I mean, it's kind of, you know what, or get off the pot.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, Ray.
So we got a couple storylines there. I also wanted to throw this out there, and it's a segment that was ran over on SNY. Very interesting, in my opinion. I try to bring you as much different content here. I got to fix this afterwards. Hopefully it doesn't kick Dan. Hey, it worked. Let's go. The folks over at SNY talking about different executives around the league may not view the Mets as the same as we do. Let's go.
Hey, Harp wrote a column where some scouts.
John Harper, friend of the show. Johnny boy, got to have you back on.
And executives, they weighed in on where the Mets stand in the NL East ahead of the 2026 season. The thing that jumped out to me, Harp, was the disparity, the variance amongst the people that you spoke to as far as how many games the Mets are going to win this.
Yeah, that's what jumped out to me as well, Sal. I've never seen it quite the range this wide in terms of some guys really like the potential of this team, and some guys feel like there's too many holes and too many question marks. I mean, I asked for win predictions. They range from 83 to 95. That's a big range.
83?
Last year, right?
Look, I'll tell you this. The New York Mets today announced all their new season ticket plans and individual plans, and the flex plan starting at $3,000 a ticket. That's why when I tell you guys I spend thousands of dollars a year, not saying I'm better than anybody, but that's how much I care about this team.
Ray's better than you people.
$3,000 a ticket.
It's crazy.
For the worst ticket in the house.
Crazy.
Listen,
we're
put up.
We're dedicated
Stearns,
fans, man.
You can't get on Steve Cohen, folks. Steve Cohen opened his wallet. Wait till you see the luxury tax bill he's going to have after this year. Oof. And that was one reporter put it great at today's thing. He said, David, does this now feel like it's your team because a lot of changes were made? You brought in your guys. It feels like it's your team now than ever. And he kind of scooted around it, but I thought the reporter had a great point, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, this is Stearns' first team, Ray. When we talk about David Stearns, this is the first rendition of what we've seen. Past teams had Epler's hands on them. Past teams had Wilpon's hands on them. This is all David Stearns' fingerprints. And I think John's right. The variance is legitimate. I believe a lot of people think 83 wins. I believe that a lot of people think 95 wins. Sure. I think they'll be somewhere in the middle. I do. I think they'll be a 90-plus win team, playoff team, respectable team. Maybe not a World Series winner. The Dodgers exist, ladies and gentlemen. But yes, I think the Mets will be a very, very good team.
It's about taking that first consistent step.
Yep. Sure.
That's what I'm talking. Make the playoffs every year. Listen, the Phillies have this Castellanos crap happening. I can't believe it's still. They think they're going to get something for a guy who's terrible, can't play the field, and now he can't hit, and he's owed a ton of money. They're still holding on to that hope for some reason. But I think there's an opportunity. Washington traded away their best pitcher. Miami trades away their best, arguably best starter. Yes, I think Cabrera is better than Sandy Alcantara. The Phillies are older. You just got news yesterday. Zach Wheeler's likely to not start on the opening day roster, may start on the IL. You had Pittsburgh right out the bat, and I'll tell you this, Dan, I don't care Paul Skeens is pitching. You have to take that series. Remember, we won 101 games a few years ago. We didn't lose a series until like July. One series. It was something crazy like that. Last year, we lose games to the Rockies. We lose series to the Pirates. We get our asses kicked by the Cardinals. Can not happen this year. And I'll tell you why I also think, and this is one point I forgot about, I'll make it quick and we'll get back to the video, why I think there's a great opportunity for Mark Vientos to be off this team. This seat that Carlos Mendoza is sitting on right now, it's hot. And there's a guy who was a Mets manager for about 20 seconds, who's about to get his number retired by the team and go into the Hall of Fame as a New York Mets.
Number 15.
Waiting to take this job.
Yep.
And the key spots where the guys who don't feel as good about it have questions about, especially at the bottom half of this lineup, the offense. How good is it going to be? Especially if Benj comes along, you don't know if he's going to be there yet. And there's questions about Devin Williams. Some guys have a lot of questions about whether he's going to handle the role of closer coming in the following.
I'll tell you this, Dan, from multiple people that I've spoken to, some former executives of the New York Mets. You guys could guess who it is. The biggest question every former scout, former executive that I've spoken to is the same thing. Can Devin Williams close out games in New York? And they all say no until proven. Couldn't do it last year for the Yankees. It's a different year. Relievers are volatile. But you're just going to throw away the guy's entire career? But we got to see him do it. And I wonder if he has that fuel. He's there today, showed up today, knowing that the Mets didn't want you to close, bro. They were trying to bring Diaz back. They did not want you to close. Are you going to use that as fuel to have a great year? Or are you going to always look behind you and say, maybe Weaver's coming to close behind me? Maybe AJ Minter's returning in early May. We got that today. Maybe he's going to come back behind me. The Mets have other options in the back end of this pen now. And that's something I wanted to throw out there, Dano. We were talking about it.
You are forgetting one name, Ray, who will be my hot take. We'll have a prediction Metcast episode.
Nunez?
No.
Well, shout out to him. Another guy, if he returns to form after injury, could be effective in the bullpen.
Another guy, but I might be called crazy, and I very well could be. I think Craig Kimbrell is going to be the closer of the Mets. I do. I have a feeling, given everything that we've talked about this offseason, that they wanted to bring Diaz back. Devin Williams not really cut for New York. That can remain to be seen. Obviously, he can change that narrative very quickly. But I think Kimbrell being on this team, if he gets lit up in spring training, I'm well aware he's not making this team. But if he shows that he still has something left in the tank, the experience of Craig Kimbrell, the future Hall of Famer Craig Kimbrell, yeah, I'd consider having him close some games in the beginning of this season and seeing how the experiment goes for sure.
I'm wondering what kind of options he has in his contract. Like, if he doesn't make the team, is it an out? Like, he signed a minor league deal. Like, I don't see Craig Kimbrell going in pitching in Syracuse. I don't shoot them. I don't see not many Hall of Famers. Not Mo Rivera at the end of his career going to pitch for the Savannah Bananas, whatever. Right. But that's nor here nor there. But maybe he makes the team. And I also think the Mets made this trade today with the White Sox, knowing that Minter's not coming back till the best early May. Like I was telling you, Dan, earlier today, I think there's a chance he starts the season on the 60-day IL. Let him be out all of March. Let him be out all of April and come back in May, freeze up that roster spot, freeze up that 40-man, and you add a left-handed pitcher coming out of the pen. We need it, and it makes sense. So that's why I like the pickup.
Having another lefty in this pen is so critical for the New York Mets. Huge. And I cannot stress that enough, because Minter's great. And if he's ready a month into the season, great. He's one of your high leverage arms. Hudson becomes like a sixth inning guy. Raley is a very high leverage lefty to begin the season. You have 3 lefties in this pen. That's not even including Nate Lavender, who I'm a big Nate Lavender guy. He doesn't overpower you, but he has great control. So I think they have a couple of these lefties, and don't be surprised if one of these lefties maybe is a spot starter one of these days. And I'm not saying it's smart to start AJ Minter, but we were seeing Reed Garrett start games last year and nobody batted an eye, right?
Reed Garrett, who is Dunzo.
Right. So, Dylan Ross, another name for this pen. It's a good pen. And
you took the words right out of mine and Brennan's mouth, who commented that right as you said that.
Look at that.
Brandon.
Yeah. So I think in general, this is a very good pen. And they're a little banged up to begin the year. Guess what? Everybody in baseball is banged up to begin the year. Go ask a Yankee fan if they're healthy to begin the year. The answer is no. So
they have Stanton tattooed on the back of their neck.
Well, yeah, offensively.
IL.
Yeah.
Diaz's footsteps, all that. For the most part, the guys who feel good about the team feel really good about the starting pitching and think that can really carry this team. And then the offense will find its way along the way and feel better about Williams. But it really struck me. Some guys feel really good about this team. Other guys say, hey, I need to see a lot more.
I mean, 83. Come on, that's a little low here, even for the pessimistic fan out there.
I mean, that's
83 would be a major disappointment.
We saw it fall apart last year, though.
I know, but they're totally different this year and much better already going
into
the rotation. And they have depth. Like
you would think.
Almost everything that could go wrong last year with the rotation did go wrong.
It's fair to say there are potential holes in this lineup, though, that could cause.
Okay, and then let me counter that for a second to the scouts and execs that you talk to. Isn't it fair to say that if there are holes that expose themselves, the Mets will go out there and try to patch them up?
Yeah, they should. But, I mean, we don't know. I mean, they're counting a lot on Carson Benj, it seems like. And everybody loves him. But you got to see him do it at the big league level. We haven't seen that yet. He didn't even hit in AAA. He was only there for 20 games or so. So that seems like still a big leap he has to make. And other than that, you need some more offense in that outfield the way it's constructed right now.
Hey, Harp.
A lot of good things from him right there. I always love Harp on the program. Let me add you here. We got to work out this thing off the air, guys. We will.
Yes.
Work in progress.
Blame the microphone.
Any more comments on him? And then we'll get some of your guys' comments and questions. Please like the video. If you guys are here, consider becoming a member in the description.
Yeah, I think John is spot on with his assessment of Benj. Like, he has not played many games, but he also had wrist problems. So that's an important note to make. When he's hit, single A, double A, he has excelled beyond his years. And there was like a 4.5-year age gap at one point for Carson Benj. He's a very good player. And I think, again, as I said before, he can play in the big leagues today. But is that the smart thing to say and to do? Probably not. if you want the truth. So I think spring training, Ray, is going to tell us a lot. It's going to show us who Carson Benj really is, and that'll probably be the final factor in if he makes this team.
When's the last time we went into spring training saying, if this guy has a great spring training, he's going to be the starter on this roster? When's the last time that's happened? We've heard about Brandon Sproat every year, Jet Williams every year. I mean, when's the last time that's happened? I don't remember.
Not really. I'm probably with a pitcher. Maybe we were looking at Sproat last year, and maybe, but you're right. It hasn't really happened to this level.
All right, guys, we're going to some of your comments. I want to know who you guys are rooting for in the WBC, and let me know, would you guys be interested in us live streaming with you guys some of these games? For me, it's the U.S.
Yep.
Even though half my family is from Venezuela, half my family is from Italy. Shout out to the fam in Caracas. USA all day for me. That's all I got to say. Even though I'll never forget, my family was obsessed with Carlos Beltran back in the day. Johan Santana, another Caracas native. They were all obsessed with him, but I am full team USA. And maybe it's because Noel McLean's a little extra, you know what I'm saying? But go take a look at that. A lot of hype coming in. Let us know in the comments who you guys are going for, and maybe I'll put a little friendly wager on this. Maybe I'll give away one of my Pete Alonso cards because he's dead to me now that he left us. And that's how I'll leave it at that. But with that said, let's get to a couple of your guys' comments. YUUT first. Yes, my friend. Yes, you are.
Woo!
Eel says Dominican is winning. They got a hell of a team there. Them and Puerto Rico did until Lindor's out. Now Javi Baez, he couldn't stop smoking the weeds. I think he's out now. Whatever happened with that.
Bo Bichette will not play for Team Brazil.
Isn't one of the Morabitos playing for Italy?
I believe so, yeah.
Am I having that right?
Vientos.
Shout out to our boy Bobby Bonilla over on Facebook, one of my good friends. Dominican Republic all the way, right? Bobby, get the hell out of my comment. No, just Bobby's a great guy, runs some of the great Mets groups over on Facebook. So gracious to meet him in person, and now I consider him a friend. Nelson's with me. USA is stacked. Absolutely love to see it. Get some more of your guys' comments.
Real quick, think about that pitching staff, Ray. I mean, you have the three. This is the beautiful thing about
Beans, and we're gonna light his ass up on opening day.
You have what we're seeing with the Olympics right now: the best athletes in the world on the same team. Skeens, McLean, and oh my goodness, bro! I can't. Kershaw too, right?
Yeah, but I wanted Kershaw from like 10 years ago.
Yeah, right. I get 2014 Kershaw.
Ready for this? USA's projected rotation. Oh my God. Paul Skeens, Tariq Skubal, 1-2.
It's ridiculous, man.
Is Skubal playing in the WBC?
Yes, he is.
My gosh. Noel McLean is literally the bat boy. Logan Webb as your 3, Joe Ryan as your 4, McLean as your 5. Also, Clay Holmes.
Yep. David
Bednar, part of that rotation. As a 6-man, Michael Wacha. You guys remember we got Wacha for 1 year, $10 million back in the day. He was beyond washed up, and then all of a sudden he becomes, Cy Young again.
Yeah, no, there's some really good players. And then on the offensive side, Bregman, Ernie Clement, Goldschmidt, Harper, Henderson, Turang, Bobby Witt, Byron Buxton, PCA, Aaron Judge, Kyle Schwarber. This team is loaded. I get the
power out there. You know what? We almost forgot to say it, Dan.
Yeah.
We got to give credit to our brethren across in the Bronx. Shout out to their big offseason splash, Paul Goldschmidt. Didn't say I couldn't see it coming. Big 4 million smackers to Goldie over there. And I know Yankee fans are thrilled that that's their big acquisition this offseason. Bichette, Goldie, shout out to them.
Right. Yeah. So I agree, and this USA team is really, really good. We're gonna live stream those games, guys. I've made the
You know what?
executive decision here. Yeah,
Think about this, Dan. I'm excited to see McLean against some of these, some of these teams. Is Japan in this one or no?
oh yeah. I mean, they're all in it, right? So I don't know.
Otani's playing.
Yeah, I don't know what the Yamamoto as well. I don't know what the pools are. I might have to look into that further in terms of how these teams are matched up. But yeah, if we had a Japan versus USA like we've had in the past, and you have guys like Otani versus Trout again, I mean, that's just unbelievable. This year, maybe it's Skeens versus, Otani.
All right, so here are the
Yeah.
pools. Here are the pools. Wait, North Korea's in one of them. Oh my gosh.
Oh, geez.
Is that for real?
Are they able to escape?
That can't be right.
Thought they can't leave their country. Oh,
It's like pool groups, and it's actually for
Oh.
the actual pool.
Got it.
Hold on one sec. Let's see.
Water polo brought to you by the WBC.
All right, here's the format. Okay, so here we go. Pool A: Puerto Rico, Cuba, Canada, Panama, Colombia, United States, Mexico, Italy, Great Britain, Brazil. I would love to face Great Britain first. I'll tell you that. They got a great team.
Yeah, it was on Great Britain right there. Chapman was close to
You
the
want to
other.
talk about an easy conference? Pool C: Japan, Australia, Korea, the Czech and Chinese Taipei.
Oh,
What?
geez. Come on.
Yo, Pool D is stacked.
Japan has a cakewalk.
Venezuela and the Dominican Republic. That is going to be pretty damn good. Netherlands, they stink. Israel, we all know they have a horrible team. I think they have actually 2 major leaguers playing for them. And Nicaragua, I don't know of anybody who's playing for them, but that should be cool.
I forget who. I'm looking it up. Who is on? Dean Kramer.
March 6th to the. Oh, you know what? We'll actually be at spring training when these are airing.
Well, we'll find time, ladies and gentlemen. That's called sacrifice.
A lot of people could probably care less about this. I'm having way too much fun with the WBC.
I agree. Jock Peterson is playing for Team Israel.
He stinks. You remember a couple years ago, everybody wanted him as DH.
Yeah, right.
What was he? 278, 30 home runs. That was a horrible signing.
Crazy what happened to Jock Peterson, man.
Let's keep going with some of these comments. Andres, I just hope no one gets hurt during the WBC. Lindor not disclosing his injury for a few years is troubling to me. I think the Mets knew about it, but it wasn't like, that big of a deal. He was playing with it. I'm thinking if he gets the surgery now, maybe, just maybe he gets the surgery and those hot cold streaks stop. Supposedly from a friend that I was talking to said a lot of times when they get these surgeries that it takes a little bit to get your power back. And I also want to say this too. So let me get this straight. Francisco Lindor, for pre-existing injuries or injuries that happened in the past, he can't get insurance, but Byron Buxton can somehow get insurance. The guy who's played 50 games in the last decade can somehow get insurance to play in the WBC. How does that work?
A lot of it is pre-existing conditions. A lot of it is, things in the past where Lindor, he had that surgery, that cleanup on his elbow. That was a big reason with this whole insurance stuff with him specifically. Buxton, I'm not sure. I know there's 3 options. Like the player can take out insurance, they can take MLB's insurance package, or they can just kind of not go without insurance, and that's taking a risk as well. So the whole thing's weird. Very weird. Not a good look for the WBC over these past few weeks, but it is what it is.
Shout out to the blue color combination on the mics.
Cool, right?
Yeah. Andre says, can't understand why Manaea never got the surgery. Makes no sense. Bro, I've been saying it, and I'll tell you this. Maybe it's not up to the Mets. Maybe it's only up to the player. And I know David Stearns said he had nothing to do with the WBC. I wanted to throw that in there. But if Manaea gets hurt and isn't the same, and we find out midseason he's got it, I will be so ticked off. I wonder if the Mets will have an insurance claim then on him. But it won't matter at that point. The money's already spent.
I think these teams take out insurance on any multi-year deal, or at least they should. They do. I'm almost positive they would have Manaea insurance. If you're giving a guy a 3-year deal, you better have insurance. It might not be the full 100%, which we saw with Montas. Like it was only like 15% they got back. But yeah, that's going to be interesting.
Ramon said true Mets fans are pissed about Pete Alonso No offer, clearly not a Met fan, and watch Pico crazy with the team. He's with dudes, a monster. To me, I don't know who will even play first base. Well, we all know it's Polanco. It's happening, whether we like it or not. And obviously, before when I said Pete's dead to me, I was being a little facetious because I do love Pete. Follow that up with Burns saying, as Metcast imaginary doctor, I think he should pop some Advil and call us in the morning.
Thanks,
I
Jimmy.
agree. Save a lot of money on insurance there.
Jimmy's got a PhD from Harvard. He went to school with Stearns, so he's well qualified.
There you go. Renee follows up the fact that Lindor was dealing with this injury for a long time, waited until now to get it looked at is not good. From what I'm hearing is this actually may not be the first time. Remember, it was an injury you could play with. It's not like a clear fracture where you fall and break your shoulder. You know, when I'll tell you something, I was playing basketball in high school and I fell and I got some guy came up from underneath me on the rebound. I flipped over him, fell on my shoulder, crushed my collarbone, and I deal with bone spurs now on my left arm till the day I die. Now I can get surgery and get them removed as long as they're not crazy bothering with me. I could also live with it. And I think it was kind of like that with Lindor, where it just is what it is. And I think that maybe the pain got so much. And I'm wondering, I could be completely wrong, Dan, completely wrong. But maybe getting this surgery stops these hot cold streaks so often.
Yeah, I think it can. I don't want to chalk it up to like personal things because of players being different, case by case basis. But I know that some of these players, Dominican, Puerto Rican, they're playing in such warm environments all year long that then when they come up here to New York or in the Northeast and they have to play some cold games, it does take that adjustment. But once the weather gets warmer, I think we saw that clearly with Juan Soto. He started to get going. So I don't want to chalk it up and saying, oh, just because the weather gets warm, he'll start hitting. I just think a lot of it could be this injury. I do agree with you. And just get the surgery, man. I'm not advised to tell people to get surgery. It's your own body. You could do what you want. But again, like, you want the best for the Mets at the end of the day. And it's the same thing with Sean Manaea. I always go back to that point. If you're not 100% Sean Manaea, get the surgery because you're not helping anybody. It's the same case with Francisco Lindor.
I agree. Burns says free Jesse Winker.
Yeah, bring him back. That'll get Ray excited. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, we all know how I feel about Jesse if you've been here for a while.
MJ
says, we have more questions about our defense than last year. Stearns talked about getting better in the field and made it sound like we didn't need Pete. Just a joke. Well, the defense is way better. You're adding a guy who can win a Gold Glove in center field. Juan Soto going from right to left, regardless of what you think, it is better for this team. Not saying he's better than Brandon Nimmo, but he was not good in right field. I mean, the stats speak for himself. The advanced stats, as I have them pulled up right here on Juan Soto last year, range OAA, 1 percentile, arm value, 18th percentile, arm strength, 66. The guy's got 0 range in the outfield. Having him and Nimmo with a bad foot, that's an upgrade. You added a Gold Glover in second base in Simeon. And obviously, I'm not saying that Pete Alonso's scoop rate, of course, it's great. No one could deny that. But his range is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
He also dives for balls in the hole. He's got how many times, and we're going to see Pete Alonso dive for a ball in the hole at second base and nobody's covering first because he should be going after those balls. And again, I like Pete Alonso, but this defense is drastically better than last year. Also, I think if Alvarez is healthy and not getting drilled in the wrist and the hand left and right, he'll be better as well. And I'm not saying it's a better team offensively. I actually think last year's team is better power-wise. Now, it remains to be seen if this team's a better, well-rounded team, adding a Polanco and a Bichette over a Nimmo and Alonso. But that'll be remain to be seen. We don't know what these guys are going to do. None of them have ever played with, obviously you have Bichette played with Vladdy, but he never played with Soto and Lindor. Just hasn't. And he's going to come up with them on base all the time.
I think the one thing for me, Ray, is this team. I can't tell you, and you can't tell us either, if this team's going to be better statistically. We can't tell at this point. But what we do know at this point, it's a more flexible team. and you can put players in positions that you could not do last year. Like last year, you were kind of locked into Vientos if he's at third and maybe a little bit of first, and Beatty can only play second and third. And you didn't have really McNeil could go to the outfield, but it wasn't great. Like now you have flexibility to the case where if you lose Francisco Lindor, you just put Bichette at shortstop or Simeon at short or Polanco at short. You put Beatty at third, you put whoever at second, you put whoever at first. There's ways to be flexible. And that's something that this team did not have last year.
People are fighting with a Marlins fan in the comments.
Oh,
I feel bad for those guys. You know what? If you want, I will buy you a free Long Island Ducks jersey because they probably beat the Florida Marlins. Quack, quack.
We're having fun.
It says Beatty has better defense than Polanco, and both don't primarily play first base, but I think Beatty would be better in Polanco DH because where he primarily play in the past years. I agree. I think Beatty should be the opening day first baseman. I'll be honest with you guys. I think Beatty should be the opening day third baseman.
Play both positions. Why not?
Well, I actually think, and I
hear you.
Be honest with you guys,
No.
I don't like the idea of Beatty in right field.
No.
I know Stearns floated that out there today. Just by them moving Soto to left, Benj is a lock to start the year on this team.
I hope they're not trading Brett Beatty. I just want to make that clear. If it is,
I think Mark Vientos might
right.
be traded. I told you that a while ago.
Yes, and I agree. And I know a lot of people say, "Oh, he's just trying to posture for Brett Beatty like he did with McNeil and up his value. And he can play right, he could play left." I don't think that's the case. I think Brett Beatty is on this team because Brett Beatty is a really good player. As an infielder, probably too.
Yeah, I think he projects long-term there. And look, I know we spoke about it in the past. Miami wanted him in a trade for a pitcher, allegedly. That was also the old regime. I just don't know how smooth Beatty's going to look in the outfield. He might make all the routine plays, but if you're going to preach defense, you can't have Beatty in right field. That'll be catastrophic for this team.
Yeah, it would be.
Renee says, Ray, I don't think the Mets are going to move Bo back to shortstop to fill Lindor. If he's switching to play third, adjust to that position. I agree. If that just is what it is. I totally agree with you.
This is the question now. Who is playing short on opening day if Lindor is not ready?
The 26th guy on the roster who I projected,
Right.
Ronnie Mauricio.
It could be Mauricio. It could be Simeon if you want to move Beatty to second. I mean, it's going to be very.
Look, remember what they said last year? They were talking about having Brett Beatty play shortstop. Remember that?
Right.
People forget that. They had Beatty at first base when Pete wasn't signed. They had him as the emergency shortstop playing third base. He could play a little left, play a little right. I think that's what they're going to aim to do. Now, he might not play a great shortstop, but I think he'd probably be adequate. I'm not saying he'd be great below average, but the routine play I think he will make.
Brett Beatty is the new Jeff McNeil.
Eli says, how do you guys feel about Mauricio? Should I go first or should you?
I'll go. He's a very talented player. I expect big things for him whenever he's back from AAA. I expect him to be on this team at some point this season. And I really like Ronnie Mauricio, but I know Ray might not feel the same.
Where's that UPS box?
You want to ship Mauricio
anywhere? He still has value. Get off of him.
Right.
The guy can't stay healthy. The guy can't produce consistently. I think he's got all the tools.
Yeah.
He's that guy that we're going to be looking back. Maybe he becomes Wilmer Flores. Age 30, he's hitting 30 bombs. Absolutely. But there's no place for him. There isn't. When he can't hit lefties, when are they going to abandon that?
Imagine putting him in right field. That would be pretty interesting.
Well, at least he's an athlete and he's got a cannon.
Yeah.
This is how you know the Mets don't love Ronnie Mauricio. The fact they brought in Bo Bichette and handed him third base when that should be Ronnie Mauricio's position. Let's see. I'm going to pull up Mauricio's splits for you guys so you don't think I'm nuts. Last year versus lefties, 36 at-bats. Very small sample size. 083. 2 hits. 0 doubles. 0 triples. 0 home runs. 14 strikeouts. That is a 56-ish% swing and miss rate. But against righties, 265, 131 at bats, 6 homers. That's what I like to see. Abandon the lefty hitter. And I think, look, he has a place on this team. He is a better Luis Angel Acuna. Less speed, more of an arm, less range, more pop. Switch hitter. I think he could play a place on this team, maybe learn a little bit of the outfield. But I'll tell you one thing. I want to bring to your guys' attention. This is what scares the absolute heck out of me when it comes to Ronnie Mauricio. Ronnie Mauricio came up as a guy who could steal bases, who had speed. Last year, he dropped to the 13th percentile. He rivals Pete Alonso and Mark Vientos' speed on the bases. Coming off a major knee injury now over 2 years ago. Last year it was 2 years. He missed all of 2024. He had a year and a half to rehab. When I see something like that, it screams future DH. Now, you want to play third base? Fine. But the guy can't stay healthy. And I wonder what how much time does he have left?
Ronnie Mauricio.
When he's a UFA.
Ronnie Mauricio is a free agent in 2030. He is a free agent, and his service time is 2 years, just over.
So when he was out, they must have not granted him service time. So they got time. So maybe you keep him, but I'm not gonna listen. Carson Benj doesn't work out. A big time right fielder becomes available. I'm not letting Ronnie Mauricio hold that up, but I'm not giving him away for nothing either.
Yep.
I'm not. You want to tell me the Marlins call and say, hey, we love Ronnie Mauricio for Sandy Alcantara? Enjoy the heat, bro. That's where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing personal against Mauricio, but Mauricio is, how old is he now?
Mauricio is 24 years old.
When did he first crack the big leagues?
He's 25 in April, day before my birthday, April 4th.
So he cracked the big leagues in 2023 with 26 games.
He was with the Mets in 2018.
Well, I think that's when they signed him.
Yeah, at 17, he was playing for.
He made his first major league appearance back in 2023. It's 2026.
It's crazy.
You have all of 23, all of 24, all of 25, now into 26. It's like, when do you... I understand the raw tools are there. The exit velo is insane. I want to look that up really quick.
When he's on, he's a 1100 OPS type guy. I mean, he can be that level. You've seen it in certain...
Ready for this?
Yeah.
All the advanced stats, and forgive me guys who don't know these stats. Average exit velo is in 91.2 percentile. The guy's one of the greats in all of baseball. Bat speed in the 73.8 percentile. Well above average. Arm strength in the 76 percentile. All amazing, right? This is the issue. Barrel rate. 8.8. Square up 20.2.
It's pretty good.
Rate 33.9. That means he swings and misses out of 1 out of every 3 pitches he misses.
Bad.
Not even fouls. K rate 29 to 3%. That's not the worst, but it's not something you want to see. The guy swings at everything. We saw him get exposed last year. Maybe we do this. Maybe against right-handers, maybe you sit Polanco a little bit. A guy who crushes lefties. Now, he's pretty solid against right-handers, but maybe you could switch it up there. Maybe Robert needs a day. Maybe, I don't know, a tough righty against Simeon. You give him a day. I like Mauricio. It's just I've been hearing about this potential since 2023. Yes, he had a terrible knee injury. And remember, that happened in the offseason. He was playing in, I believe, the Dominican Summer League or the Winter League, excuse me, or the Fall League, Arizona. I don't remember what it was. It was some off-season league, and he ruptures his knee, cost him the entire next season. And then he has a whole nother offseason to rehab. And when he comes back, he's running in like the 12th percentile. Like Pete Alonso and Mark Vientos are side by side with him running, a guy who is projected to be a 30-30 guy. Now that front 30 might still be there. That's the encouraging part, but I can't let him hold me up anymore. I just can't, especially when you're watching all these prospects come through the season. The minors, the Morabitos, all of these guys, they're about ready to come up.
Sure. Yeah, their time is coming, right? And Mauricio's time is already kind of overdue at this point. He has one more legit chance. He'll get his treatment in AAA. Hopefully he's back with the speed. That's very important. And then hopefully he can continue to do what he does, hit from both sides. Hopefully we start to see that. I can't give up on Mauricio just yet, but it's getting to the point where you kind of have to. So we'll give him this year. We'll see
how many options does he have. That's the more important part.
I think he's out of options, my friend. He might have one. Real quick here. So Ronnie Mauricio's options brought to you by Fangraphs. He has one remaining. So he'll begin in
AAA. But when you bring him up, that's it. That's also the issue of Mark Vientos, folks. He's got zero.
Yeah.
Zero zilch. Mark Vientos, you can never send him down. That's why I think the rumors are out there. The Mitch Kellers for Mark Vientos. It would probably be a David Peterson and a Mark Vientos for a Mitch Keller, because you have way too many pitchers at this point. Something of that nature. Because if Mark Vientos has a bad spot, stinks, you got to DFA him. Right now, he still has value. And that's why I think we're hearing his name out there so much, Dan. The guy's got value. Do you want to capitalize on it now? Where, let me ask you this. Right now, the season starts. Paul Skeens is on the mound. Is he your DH? Look, as we lose Dan, is he your DH? That's what I ask you guys. A lot of people love Vientos, including myself. But I don't know. But that's all we got for you guys today. If you're still around, please smash that like button. Consider becoming a subscriber, a member down in the description. Thanks for sticking around. We'll be having a lot of updates for you guys in regard to the WBC, the New York Mets, any of the breaking news. You guys know where to come. Talk to you in the next one. Thanks so much for sticking around. God bless.